Hey everyone. So, we're here to have a conversation about anxiety and depression. And I'm Stephen Washington, and I'm here with my friend, Janie Chandler. And before we begin talking about this really important topic, I wanted to share with you some statistics around anxiety and depression. So, this is according to what I found on Google, and this looks at the United States in the year of 2023. In 2023, 29% of Americans reported being diagnosed with depression at some point in their lives, and 17.8% reported currently having depression. This is the highest rate of depression diagnosis since the question was first asked, and is a 10.6 percentage point increase from 2015. Women are more likely to be diagnosed with depression than men, with a prevalence of 10.5% for women and 6.2 for men. Now that's depression. And here's just this little bit about anxiety. In 2023, 50% of adults ages 18 to 24 reported symptoms of anxiety or depression, which is higher than the overall adult rate of about a third. Young adults are more likely to experience mental health symptoms than any other age group. Those are really scary statistics.
Right, but also what
Mhm.
I hear underneath that is these are
Yeah.
the ones that are reported. These are the
Yeah.
ones that have come under someone's awareness. There are so many more people who
Suffering
are
in
dealing
silence.
with depression and right, and they don't really realize that that is what it is. If you're feeling just kind of flatlining, dull, I mean, it's and even if you don't have something to be depressed about, you
Mhm.
might be feeling depression. I know I do
Mhm.
on occasion feel like just everything is duller and
Yeah.
everything is kind of tamped down and I don't have access to my feelings of joy or happiness or thrill or wonder, and that's when I know that I am experiencing depression. But I have never gone to a doctor and talked to somebody about that, so that's not ever been recorded. So I feel sure that
Right.
those numbers are actually even a whole lot higher than that, which
That's so
is
true.
it's kind
Yeah,
of an epidemic, really.
I agree. And I also think that the pandemic that we all went through several years ago exacerbated that. Absolutely. I think this is like everybody, just to give you all even more context. Janie and I were together not that long ago in Arizona for an event, and we would go on these walks along around the property, and we would have these deep talks. And one of the things we talked about and got the idea for this conversation was from one of those talks. And I'd shared with Janie my experience with depression and anxiety, and that I had been living with it for a good portion of my life, but didn't realize it because I always thought that depression would look and feel a certain way. You know, my mother has mental health issues, and I always used her as my litmus test. Like if I ever seemed like I was moving into that territory that she was in, then I have something to worry about. But if it's not that, then I'm good. So I'm very functional. I get forgive my French, I get shit done. And I thought that if you were depressed, you couldn't get out of bed. You couldn't turn the lights on. You couldn't function. But there's a lot of us out there walking around with low grade depression and anxiety, and it's can be crippling. And what happened for me in about 2 years ago was I had to stop and look at it because I had to look at my life. My life was lovely on the outside. I was married to a lovely man. He loved me. I loved him. I had meaningful work. We had a lot of money in the bank. We had a beautiful home, and I still felt flat about it all. And I thought, there's something wrong here. There's something wrong here. And so that's what set me on my path to
Mm-hmm.
figuring it out and dealing with it. And I always thought that if I did more qigong, if I meditated more, if I took this herb, if I went to therapy, if I went to another recovery meeting, I don't know, if I walked through nature and then in nature, that I would feel different. And I would to some extent, but it was never lasting and it never went as deep as it needed to go. So for me, I had to look into getting an actual diagnosis and also treating it with medication. And that was a game changer for me. Game changer for
Mm-hmm.
me.
And I am so grateful that you are open about that and willing to share that, because I think it's really important for people to look at somebody who seems like they've got their act together and they're having a thriving life, and to hear that they too have this struggle is so important. So I really thank you for that and commend you. And in our conversation that we were having in September about this, I let you know that not just my daughters, but uh, daughters of my friends, who all of them naturopathically raised, with organic foods and herbalism and homeopathy and homeschooled and home birthed and stable, intact families. There's nothing that glares like, oh, that's why they have anxiety or that's why they have depression. It's kind of a mystery. So for my daughters, they tried everything exactly as you've said. They, tried to be outside more and exercise more and eat better and la la la. And finally, in their 30s, they both were just like, I got to try something else. And just in the last 4 or 5 months, they have both started an antidepressant, and it is so palpable, the difference. I can just feel, and it's a very small amount that they're doing, each of them a different one for different reasons. But what I can feel is such a lightness in their being that has returned. And it's such a relief, of course, as a parent to see that and to feel it, and just to see them coming into their day more like, all right, this is what I'm doing today, instead of like, okay, and
Mhm,
it's another day that I got to get through. So,
mhm,
with all of that, and to see the number of young people that I have in my life, there's something going on in the world. And we can point to so many things, EMFs and cellular waves and the Wi-Fi and then what's in the water and the pollution in the air, the pollution that's online, the pollution of, media and social media news. The There's so much weighing on our consciousness. And what you and I didn't talk about, and I don't want to go too far into, but Pierre Teilhard de Chardin talked about the noosphere, the
mhm,
collective consciousness that is like a layer of the atmosphere that surrounds the earth. And all of our thoughts contribute to this noosphere, and all of us are subject to downloads that come from the noosphere. So the
mhm,
more depression there is, the more anxiety there is, the more reason to worry there is, the denser, it's almost like, smog in this noosphere that is then affecting our consciousness, whether we're aware of it or not, whether we are actually on our phones or not. But it's a download that can happen. So I
mhm,
think that the epidemic of depression and anxiety comes from way more than just the circumstances of an individual's life. And I think that's also why it's harder to put your finger on, because it's you can't follow it back to a reason.
yeah,
And I mean, for some of us we can. There are certainly numerous personal reasons that might happen. But also what you said about you're with your mom and comparing, well, I'm not like that, so I must not be depressed. It's all relative, and we all have our own experiences. And it's true, I often do the same thing. Well, at least I don't have that going on in my life. I'm fine. So I diminish my experience by comparing to somebody else's.
of course. So many things come to mind when you shared all of that. One is that some of us are wired a certain way, a different level of sensitivity to the outside world, and I think that that can also make us lean more towards anxiety and depression. I believe. I also think that it's hereditary to some extent. I absolutely agree with what you're saying in terms about the collective consciousness and how we're all impacted by that. But I'm also reminded of the fact that we are all much more isolated now than we have really ever been, probably in I don't know, our history, or at least for a long time. And I think the internet, does a lot of wonderful things for us all, but I think it also isolates us.
It's
Um,
so ironic, isn't it?
it
It could, I
is.
mean, without it, you and I wouldn't be having this conversation. And yet we can end up being alone in a room for a really long time without actual physical human contact. It's really
Yeah.
ironic.
And social support is a very important factor in the state of our mental health. I
Mm,
think I think if we are connected to one another, if we have people in our lives that support us, that give us, that hold space for us, and vice versa, I think that does wonders. But I think there are many people who might not that have that source of support, that kind of connection that is just person to person, heart to heart, soul to soul, and truly feel that they can really be themselves with this other person and not worry about judgment, and not have some sense of fear. There's something very healing in that. I think what we're describing and illustrating is the fact that this is a very complicated, multi-layered
mm, mhm,
topic, and what, we're just scratching the surface of it. And anything that we share in terms of ways to um, help yourself if you're dealing with anxiety and depression is just, you know, we're just scratching the surface. And also, it's not a one size fits all thing. Like I said earlier, I've tried so many things to help me, and the game changer was medication. But I don't think the medication would work as well as it is if those other things weren't in place.
mhm,
So
mhm.
it's really a
It's a
combination.
constellation
It
of
is.
of circumstances. And I want to
Yeah.
go back to the thing about isolation because I
Mhm.
know that for some people, the connections that they make virtually, like on Zoom or anything online, that is a step toward connection. For other
Absolutely.
people, means going out and finding a group or taking a class, or I know of people who've met friends on Bumble who just to find somebody that they can sit down and talk with.
Mhm.
And so we got to do what works for us in our unique constellation of circumstances. And so if you find yourself feeling isolated despite having relationships online, it may
Mhm.
be time to open the door and step outside and
Mhm.
see what's out there in the actual the human body realm, as
Yeah.
opposed to the virtual realm. And yet if you don't have anybody on the outside, maybe you'll find somebody who is in another state or another country that you can
Mhm.
connect with that way. So there's
Yeah.
not one size fits all, exactly as you said,
Yeah,
but
and I think
taking steps towards connection in one way or
Mhm.
another can be fairly hard when you feel like crap and you
Yeah.
don't feel like you have anything to offer. But that's just that breakthrough moment of needing to virtually open the door and step outside and look around and find somebody that you can go, yo, hey,
Mhm.
how's your day?
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. It's just so important that if you're going through this to just have compassion for yourself.
Mm,
Have self
mhm.
and then also have compassion for other people, because if you're listening to this and you're not dealing with anxiety or depression, I guarantee you probably know someone who is. So hopefully this will give you an opportunity to tap into your compassion for another human being who may be going through this. And also, there's a lot of stigma around this. So the fact that we're talking about it, and the fact that anyone who's listening to this and looking at their own experience, hopefully this will help them push past that stigma that they might feel a part of, in terms of how they're looking at what they're experiencing, and whether or not their perception of it is keeping them silent, or keeping them from getting the help they need, or from reaching out. Yeah.
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 Absolutely.
So, let's do some practices that could help
Mm,
people who are going
hmm.
through anxiety and depression. And let's start off with just a simple movement
Can
practice
I
while we're sitting here.
interject one thing,
Of course.
which is that we can't just, we don't have to just think our way out of it,
Mhm.
but doing the kinds of things that you and I are about to share can help get our energies and our psyche at least boosted up enough to take that next step of taking, visiting with your doctor, or talking openly to a friend, or finding a group online. But these kinds of techniques that we're going to share can help get a person maybe over the slump and moving in the right direction.
Well said. Well said. So, I wanted to start off with just some movements of the wrists. So, sitting where you are or standing, doesn't matter. Palms facing up. Yeah. And you're just going to rotate your wrists. And rotating the wrists opens up the yin and yang meridians of your forearms and hands. On the inside of your arms, your forearms, and it's going the opposite direction. Okay, there you have to think about that for a moment. Direction I was going. You have the heart and the pericardium along the inside of the forearms, and that's related to your emotions, right? And so we're just trying to free up the energy of the heart. Good. And then from here, palms facing up, let's just shake out the wrists. This is also really good for carpal tunnel. If you have carpal tunnel, any kind of problems with your wrists and hands. And as you do this, try to relax your shoulders and just take some nice deep breaths in and out. And then palms facing down and shaking out this way. Good. And then let's cross the wrists and forearms like so. Because there's a couple of there's an acupressure point on the inside of the forearm, on the pericardium channel, and that's for emotional balance. And then there's one on the outside of the forearm that's just for overall well-being. So we're just going to tapping these points. And let's do the same thing on the other side. Yes. Tapping, tapping, tapping. Really trying to relax the wrists as you do so. Just kind of let the wrists kind of flop a little bit. Easy
I like
shoulders,
this. This
deep
is
breath.
nice.
I know I love this one. Yeah.
Mm.
Good. And then you'll slow it down. Bring your knuckles and nail beds together and just rub them back and forth. Because there are meridians that begin and end on the fingers. A little music.
I
Good.
was
And it's
thinking I was going to get the hearts coming up out of.
out of your hands. Oh, yes,
Yeah,
that's lovely. I love that. I love
I
that.
wanted the hearts.
Yeah.
There they are.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then you're going to slow it down and then place your hands on your thighs. You can soften your gaze or close your eyes. Take some deep breaths in and out and just notice how you feel, what you feel. Tapping into your life force energy, your chi. Just notice that tingling, buzzing sensation in your arms and hands. This provides us an opportunity to just check in. Life moves so fast, we don't often get a chance to check in and just notice how we're feeling in any given moment. Janie, where would you like to go from here?
Well, that this is a perfect segue into the breath that I wanted to share, which in Kundalini yoga is called Ujjayi breath, or sometimes ocean breath. I really like to think of ocean breath because it sounds very much like the shushing of the ocean. And with this particular breath, I find it very, very centering and calming and grounding. And it's super, super easy. It's just drawing the breath across the glottis in the back of the throat. And the way that you can practice doing it is to start with open mouth and with your hand as if you were steaming up a window. If you were going to breathe your hot breath on the window to create steam, that's the kind of action at the back of the throat that you want. So you can do this with the mouth open. Let's try that for the first few breaths. So inhaling, dragging the breath across the glottis in the back of the throat. I'm actually going to make it so you can hear my breath more. But now we can close the mouth and just do it through the nose, still feeling the breath dragging across the back of the throat. And you want to make your breath as slow as you can, as slow and as full as you can. Really focusing on the exhale and pressing all the air out before bringing another breath in. And now continuing with that breath, we're going to hold a couple of points. The first hand I would have you put on your heart center. And the second hand I would have you put over your forehead. Now, the forehead is, the front of the brain is our forebrain, which is where we can remember things, we can remember words, we can remember language, we can remember patterns and numbers and the time we said we were going to meet our friend. The back of the brain is the reptilian fight or flight, or as I like to refer to it, the holy shit part of the brain. That's where all the energy goes when we like, ah. So by putting your hand on your forehead, you're magnetizing the energy to come forward into the forebrain so that you can think more clearly. And if you combine this with the Ujjayi or ocean breath, you can bring yourself into a state of calm. And after however long that feels good to hold, you might want to take that upper hand and move it down to the space between the belly button and the pubic bone. So you're on your lower abdomen there. And same thing, continuing with that breath. And let your focus be on the hand that is down on that lower abdomen. This is our lower dantian, the center of gravity in our body, and it is our power center. And when we bring our attention there, it helps to ground us and enliven that power center. And I would say, pay attention to how it makes you feel with your hand down here versus how it makes you feel with your hand on your forehead. And whichever one helps you to feel more collected, more calm, more centered, go with that one for as long as it feels good. And you can go back and forth between the two of them, just keeping that breath slow, long and slow. Dragging it over that glottis, making that ocean breath sound. And I would like to end this by bringing our two hands together in front of the heart chakra and pressing the hands together. This is not just a this is not just a spiritual mudra. It's not just about looking groovy. This connects the yin and the yang in our bodies. And when we press together, we create a little bit of actual tension there. It creates a negative field, not negative as in not good, but as in neutral. That's the better word. A neutral field of energy. And it really helps to bring us into ourselves and out of the spin that is the world. So there's a lot of powerful energy that happens when we bring our hands together and press them like so. So I hope that those things are helpful. And what you did with the hands is an absolute perfect segue. And by the way, folks, we did not plan that would be quite the most perfect segue. I had no idea what what Stephen was going to bring, but starting with your hands and really opening all of those meridians on the palms and on the back of the hands, then prepares your hands to be even more powerful for when you engage them with your forebrain, with your heart chakra, and with your lower dantian. So that was a sweet little combination, my friend.
Because the hands are great transmitters and receivers of energy. Yes, yes,
Absolutely.
yes. So, Janie Chandler, how can people find you and enjoy and explore more of your work?
It's pretty darn easy. It's
Mhm.
janiechandler.com. And on my website, I have my schedule available. I do energy medicine sessions online in person here. I'm in Ashland, Oregon. I teach a lot of classes online. And also, you can find me on Facebook and Instagram and even TikTok at the Janie Chandler. So I really invite people to connect with me and to get on my mailing list. I do all kinds of my own classes as well as teaching Eden method for Donna Eden and her organization. And how about
Mm.
you, Stephen?
Yes, that's how I met you, was through Donna Eden
Mm-hmm.
several years ago. So, for folks who want to tune into my work, find out more about me, go to StephenWashingtonExperience.com, and that's Stephen spelled with a V, not a PH. And you can see all the things that I do. I have a membership community, online membership community called SWE Studio. It's affordable and accessible wellness content on demand, where I created a class called I used to call it core qigong, but now I just refer to it as my Pilates qigong fusion class, because Pilates and qigong are such great mindful movement practices to connect one to one's breath and the center of the body, helping us to become essentially more resilient. And resiliency is what helps us to navigate the winds of change in life.
And I just want to plug because every time I've taken one of your classes, I am always so amazed how
Mhm.
good I feel. And I'm somebody who does energy medicine with myself a lot. But when I'm in a class with you, there's just a melting that happens for me. And I just am
Mm.
like, "Ah, I want more of that, please."
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, so that's my website and my membership community. On that membership community, there's Pilates, there's Qigong, there's meditations, there's laughter medicine, and so much more. So check it out. 2 weeks, first 2 weeks are free. And also, there's my book, Recovering You, Soul Care and Mindful Movement for
Mm.
Overcoming Addiction. You can find that on my website or at Amazon or barnesandnoble.com. And then also, I have an upcoming retreat in 2025 called Energy Excellence with my friend Paris Tater, who is a Ayurvedic therapist and counselor. We are going to be in Costa Rica mid-April 2025. I'll include all details for that on this post. I hope you'll join us. And yeah, and I'm on all the socials: Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, etc., etc., etc. All right, my friend. So this is probably going to be the first of several conversations that we're going to have, because that's just what we do. We do it so well and so easily,
So
effortlessly.
enjoyable. Now,
Yeah.
here is the problem with a virtual connection, Stephen, is I just want to reach in and hug you. So here's a
Oh,
virtual hug
I'll
from
give you
me.
one too. Yes, there you
Thank you.
go.
And I hope that everybody who's watching this can feel themselves embraced in this virtual hug between the two of us. We really wish you all the best in your healing and lifting your spirit as well.
Absolutely, absolutely.
All right.
Bye
Thanks,
bye,
Stephen.
everybody. Thank you.